Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Grumble, and we're back today with another entry in our Deathloop lore series. I wanted to delve deeper into the backstories of our esteemed visionaries, and so I did. In this series, each week I'll give you the inside scoop on their characters, tidbits, and trivia you might have missed. Obviously, be aware that these videos are filled with spoilers for the game's critical path, as well as side quests. Let's go! Today, we're going to be looking at Harriet Morse, resident cult leader and bringer of chaos and peace. Harriet Morse is not a born-again Christian, but close. She survived a horrific plane crash, which she sees as her own rebirth, and built her own religion and belief system on top of that. Path Divinity. Its followers are called the Seekers, Seekers of the Great Beyond, that which Harriet believes ends all suffering when it is reached. Path Divinity is founded on 3 precepts. 1. Existence is improvisation. 2. Improvisation manifests the chaotic self. And 3. The chaotic self engenders the tranquility within. Meaning, shit happens, you handle your shit, and meditation, I guess? Look, no one said this wasn't all a load of hot air. Path Divinity is predicated on there being 2 paths, the path of chaos and the path of peace. Harriet and her followers seek to alternate days of chaos and days of peace. Seekers are supposed to give in to their darkest impulses on days of chaos and then use days of peace to reflect upon their deeds. In either case, looping back to the morning of, which Harriet sees as another instance of rebirth, is supposed to help them reach the great beyond and thus end all of their suffering. Now, since we are in a time loop and no one has any way of remembering the day before, every first day is a new day of chaos. So basically think of first day as the Seeker's eternal fugue feast, or, the purge. Whatever floats your pop culture boat. Harriet sees her survival of the plane crash as a rebirth, and now takes the loop as a constant cycle of being reborn. Being washed of her sins, the greatest gift the anomaly can give them, which she now passes on to her followers. Harriet believes that the anomaly cannot be explained through hard science, and that there is something supernatural going on. She hinted as much to Frank, albeit they were both drunk as shit at the time, and the next day, when he asked her about it, she refused to elaborate. Now, I'm reluctant to try and hold up any of this as proof of a shared universe or direct inspiration that the writers took from Dishonored into Deathloop, but there is a notion of the void being called the Great Beyond in Dishonored, and of near-death experiences and visions of the void being shared by survivors. If we regard Days of Chaos and Days of Peace as similar to how chaos works in the Dishonored universe as a metaphysical force, then the Great Beyond as a concept is similar to the void, and that upon death, those without discord in their spirit are granted oblivion. All their suffering is ended, which is what Harriet wants as well. The 2 concepts also share a similarity in how the anomaly and the hollows, or the overlap between the world and the void in Dishonored, are predicated on location. So Black Reef might be caught in the anomaly because it is geographically close to something greater. Especially in the first Dishonored game, chaos didn't just mean a worsening of the plague due to a higher body count, it also had environmental effects. Now, the storm and lightning over King Sparrow Island is first and foremost a neon sign that pathetic fallacies are in, but it's also a sign that chaos may encompass nature as a whole. Harriet believes that the anomaly, and being tied to it, requires a spiritual sacrifice of some kind from each of the visionaries, since Wenji asked for something from each of them to imbue them with the energy that sustains the loop and to create each of their trinkets and slabs, which are unique to each visionary. Harriet therefore asks Igor whether his inventions, the minicoms, the nullifiers, equally required a piece of his soul to make them work. Harriet's lab, Nexus, is super on brand for her, taking all that into account. Connecting the mind and body, all caught within the Nexus, suffer the same fate when just one of them is harmed. Harriet is a big old cult leader, so in an even darker timeline, I can easily see her nexusing herself to everybody else when Colt comes running and gunning. After the plane crash that killed the rest of her family, Harriet inherited the family fortune and munitions business. Yes, you heard that right, every single bullet you fire on that island was made by the Morse family factories. Charming. Her being a child when all this went down, she was placed into guardianship, being taken care of by a woman named Eleanor. The two were very close, and Eleanor fostered Harriet's love of education and travel, only for Harriet to discover that Eleanor had, over 14 years, slowly siphoned not just the money, but Harriet's control and claim to the company out from underneath her. Harriet describes this as a murder spanning 14 years and execution by fine print. She remarks too that death opens the way for resurrection, so Harriet very likely killed Eleanor upon discovering her betrayal. Ever since then, Harriet has viewed feeling for others as a weakness and mistrusts everyone else to the point of keeping a ledger of dirt on the other visionaries. Though, to be fair, that's just good business, albeit I'm not sure that the Eternalists are going to condemn anybody in the court of public opinion. You know, stones, glass houses. It honestly rings less true as blackmail material and more as something to punish them with, should they wrong or hurt her. The plane crash also left Harriet with extensive burns and scarring, further contributing to her want of isolation and difficulty to let anyone else in. This is why she takes the LPP, Colt's Loop Protection Protocol, very seriously. She sequesters herself for the remainder of the day after her morning sermon in Cowles Bay. She does this same as most other visionaries, apart from Charlie and Fia. During that sermon, Harriet makes a human sacrifice. Amador Jack, the resident mask maker, has volunteered, and although I have not yet personally found the lore, if it indeed exists, I am assured that he too is an absolute scumbag. So there's no feeling sorry for him, but it must be noted that Harriet promised him that his ritualistic death would be quick and painless. In the actual sermon, however, she pivots to those darkest impulses and vows to make him suffer. At which point Amador changes his mind, but unless Colt steps in to save him, which, by the way, Amador later gives him an earful for, so thanks for nothing, buddy, it's too late for that guy. It's unclear what Amador did to make Harriet so angry, but he notes in his letter to her that they used to speak in person, so it seems likely that he has betrayed her trust or confidence in some shape or form. As for the Eon program, Harriet is its HR manager. Along with Frank, she recruited the Eternalists, heavily drawing from prison populations. In those interviews, Frank also made a point of identifying candidates he thought would be perfect seekers. Harriet doesn't care much for the other visionaries, except maybe for Fia, who she believes is the only one who could understand the significance of the great beyond. And she might just be right, considering that Fia is constantly high as a kite. Trivia. Her spy-given code name is Gasbag, which tracks because she has a thing for poison. Also, just for a bit of fun, I think this one of the 7 strictures describes Harriet really well. Restrict the lying tongue that is like a spark in a man's mouth. It is such a little thing, yet from one spark an entire city may burn to the ground. The father of a lie will suffer a punishment compounded by each person related. Better to live a life of silence than unleash a stream of untruth. The echoes of lies come back as the voice of the outsider. Well, folks, that's all about Harriet. Let's get out of Hangar 2. Stinky. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and leave a comment on your way out. It's really much appreciated. If you want to support my channel, check out my Patreon at patreon.com/AnnaMarabella, or my Ko-fi page at ko-fi.com/grumble. You can either donate or become a monthly member, receiving access to my writing and videos before everyone else, including the inside track about what I'm working on and what's coming up next in March and April. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss what's next in the series. Also, check out my Deathloop videos, both past live streams and Let's Play episodes, my just completed Dishonored 2 Let's Play, and more lore videos. All of these playlists are on screen now. Thank you so much for watching, and have a fulfilling day.